Thanks for joining us this week on Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. Join your hosts Chris Marriott and Paul Schreiner each week as they talk email marketing, life, purpose, faith, but mainly email marketing. If you're looking for some normalcy in these crazy times, you've come to the right place.
All right, Chris, welcome back to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. I'm Paul Schreiner, one of the founders at Audience Point. I'm with my good friend
Chris Marriott. And you guys thought you never were going to see or hear from us again, but we fooled you. We're back. We're back with another episode, and you're going to have to get used to tuning in to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee again.
Right, and it may not be at home. We might change it to Email Geeks at somewhere drinking coffee. But the point is, we're back, and we're glad to be back. And honestly, the bits don't ever stop being funny for me, Chris. When I leave you hanging out to dry on introducing yourself every single time, that's like joy to me.
It's right. There's just a familiarity to the whole routine that is comforting.
Yeah.
And has carried us through from the pandemic to the post-pandemic era.
Right. And the number of watchers, listeners that comment on how much they enjoy me making you look uncomfortable it's really ridiculous. Who knew that there was
just like they enjoy the inevitable reference to the Dominican Republic at some point.
Right.
They love that.
Well, let's thank our sponsors, Chris.
Let's thank our sponsors. We'll start, Paul. Who's sponsoring us in the rebirth of the show?
Right. So one of our sponsors, our gold, platinum, silver sponsor, is Audience Point, the company I formed with my buddy Andy Perez. We've been doing some stuff around data, and it's been really, really fascinating. It's really cool to have a product that works every single time, that causes people to go, wow, you made my life better. And, when data can do that, when data can tell a story around, growing your list, increasing the number of people you're emailing to, that has profound impact on revenue. It has profound impact on performance and honestly, job satisfaction. When everyone around you is like, dude, you're killing it. It feels good. And it feels good to be part of that story. So anyway, thanks Audience Point for keeping the lights on.
And apparently our junior partner, since you took gold, silver, bronze.
I took them all, Chris.
Our tin sponsorship is Email Connect, as always, company I founded. And as you know, regular viewers of this podcast and listeners know, we help brands manage the RFP process. And since we last shared a moment with you, our audience, we've launched a new RFP calculator on our website, Email Connect, that brands are now flocking to in order to determine whether it's time to RFP or not. Overloading the circuits on the back end, but we're very excited with that new addition to our website. So if you're a brand and you're thinking of RFP, www.email-connect.com is the place you want to go. Anyway, we've got a really exciting show. The reason we're back is because we got a really, really big guest today.
Yes.
And we're very excited to have our conversation with him.
Yeah. So without further ado,
we're going to go to the show. We'll see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to a long-awaited new episode of Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. And we're really excited to have today as our guest, Rajesh Jain, who is the founder and CEO of the global ESP or marketing cloud, NetCore. And we're delighted to have you here today. And it's what finally got Paul and I, my friend Paul and I, off our butts and doing a new episode of the podcast. Right.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Paul.
Great to have you here. But we don't, even though it's been a while, we don't forget traditions, do we, Paul? So before we begin, we need to go around and talk about who's drinking what at Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. So Paul, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed today, Chris. I'm in the office today, so I'm not at home drinking coffee. But it's powdered coffee, and so it's Starbucks blonde roast. But it's not bad. It's pretty good, all things considered.
And what does your mug say?
It says stuff's getting better, and it has a picture of Kevin Costner from The Postman, if you remember that movie.
Yes. Only slightly better than Waterworld in his portfolio of movies.
Right.
And Rajesh, I hope we didn't catch you without a beverage. Do you have a beverage?
I don't have a beverage because it's a little bit late in Mumbai. It's past 7:30, and I just finished my dinner and my brushing of the teeth. But I'll tell you my favorite drinks.
Okay.
I love hot chocolate and Indian masala chai, masala tea.
Oh,
Yes.
There it is. I do too. We were talking about
Paul's
on
a
the way
tea
in.
guy. Well, I'm drinking. What kind of coffee am I drinking, Paul?
Is it Dominican Republic coffee?
Yeah,
Chris?
Santo Domingo coffee from the Dominican Republic, which it means means a lot to both Paul and I, and longtime fans of the show will know that Rajesh. The reason we always talk is right at the beginning of the pandemic, right as we launched this podcast in 2020. Paul had been scheduled to go on an all-expense paid trip to the Dominican Republic with his wife. She'd earned it as a reward for her hard work at her job. Unfortunately, Paul, what happened? Did you get to the Dominican Republic?
We did not. We did not. All flights were canceled. Like the country went on lockdown. My mother-in-law, who was going to come out and watch our 5 kids, was not able to come, and so we didn't get to go, Chris. We didn't. We had to sort of squander the trip. So thank you for bringing that up yet again. I really do.
I'm sorry that my beverage of my coffee brand of choice is a constant reminder of the failure of that vacation. Anyway, Rajesh, it's great to have you here, and it's great to talk about. I mean, there are so many things going on at NetCore.
Right.
I'm not even sure where to start. Well, I want to talk about the IPO. I want to talk about the acquisition, your recent acquisition. I want to talk about your expansion in the US. But let's start with, why don't you tell, for folks who don't know NetCore the way Paul and I do, why don't you just give us a little background history of it and the growth of the company from the beginning?
Sure, Chris. So NetCore is a 25-year-old company headquartered in Mumbai, India. And we've had a number of pivots through the years, as typically happens. First 10 years, we didn't grow much because I was running the company. And then I realized that I'm the bottleneck. We created a lot of interesting products, but we couldn't sell them. So then I professionalized the management. I got in place a CEO who really laid the foundation for our growth. And cut to today, we are the largest digital experience platform in India and emerging markets. So essentially, if you think of our business, it's email, of course. So I think we are one of the largest independent email companies left in the world, Chris. Everyone else has been acquired. We are one of the originals. I keep telling my team, I said, it's the responsibility is ours to innovate in the world of email now.
That's right. That's right.
And then we also do,
Go
Yes,
ahead.
Chris,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We also do SMS, but only in India. And over the last 5 years, we've built a very good marketing automation stack and added a couple of acquisitions to it to expand it. So it's basically a sort of AI-driven full stack solution for marketers wanting to build B2C relationships, communications, engagement, experience, and as you alluded to it, search through our recent acquisition of Unboxed.
Yeah, and definitely want to talk about that. And I met some of that team in Vegas at the Shop Talk, and great people that came with that company. But most email marketers that are aware of sort of the vendor landscape, they look at when they think about ESPs that aren't US based, they tend to think about ESPs from Europe that had historically had much smaller volumes of their clients weren't sending a lot of messaging, and so they in the US they're sort of at that mid-market level. Netcore, however, being India-based and being the leading emailer in Southeast Asia, your volumes, in my mind, it would seem that they would match your ability to scale would match the largest US ESPs as well, because just the volume of the population of India alone would mean hundreds of billions of emails going out.
Right.
So we do about 18 billion emails a month. So we've got a 75% market share in India of all the emails, and about 60% of Southeast Asia. So that's a lot of emails.
Yeah.
And that's growing quite rapidly because there's more and more people in India coming online. While of course, SMS and push notifications are very powerful alternate channels.
Right.
But I think email is also growing very rapidly because it's got the best ROI, as of course both you and Paul know so well.
Right. Right. And to me, that's, that's something that's important for American companies to understand, is again, that you have this ability, you're not a smaller ESP from Europe, you're a massive ESP from Asia, and able to duke it out with the biggest ESPs in the US.
Well, I'd love to tease that out a little bit. Like when I think other ESPs were forming, and Rajesh, what year did you guys start up at Netcore, roughly?
So we started in 1997, but the email business began around 2007-8.
Okay. So that's right in line with when a lot of these other marketing clouds were kind of spinning up and going full. But you went a different path, right? Where a lot of the other ESPs were very US or Europe focused. Was there a temptation to sort of follow that path and just do it the same way? Because you really were pioneers, right? Blazing a trail in a market that didn't have an ESP.
Absolutely right, Paul. So when we began, just to give you a little background on how we got into the email space, the first 10 years, we were primarily doing Linux-based email solutions for companies, so competing with Exchange. So a mail server on the corporate network, as it were. Exchange was quite expensive in India. Open source Linux gave a very good alternative to companies in India. And then as companies built up their lists in the early days in India, they came to us and said, you guys know email very well. Help us do what they call bulk mailing, mass mailing. We've got these lists, we want to send it out to our customers, and we need some help in doing that. And that's how we began. So there was no great strategy at that time, just listening to customers and just following sort of their lead in what they wanted. And as we grew from there, I think we were too small in the early days to look at markets outside of India. Because the US entry would have been quite expensive. We were very small scale at that time to essentially venture outside. And as we grew in around 2015-16, we made two sort of expansions. One was, we said, okay, we've got the lower layer of communications. Now, what more can companies do on that? So we were quite early in the MarTech space. So journey orchestration, campaign management, etc. We built that piece out. We also had the email API that we built out, and primarily for mid-market to large enterprises. We didn't focus much on the smaller enterprises. And the second expansion we did was, to answer your question more directly, Paul, was we went to emerging markets. So we went to Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, the near markets. Because there are a lot of similarities with respect to India. We could manage the back end from India in a time zone which was much easier to handle than in the US.
Yeah.
We started expanding in US and Europe in the last couple of years because then we had the heft, we had the scale. I think we had a very good full stack product because you need differentiation. So just coming and saying we are like maybe a cheaper version of a US company was not good enough.
Right.
Would never be good enough. And over the last, in fact, year, we've worked on a number of innovations, what we call Email 2.0, which I think will give us a very, very interesting play in US and Europe and UK as we expand.
Cool.
You said something interesting early on, Rajesh, regarding SMS and only in India. Is there a plan? Because I think you'd agree that in the US, particularly in the realm of these next gen platforms that have mobile capabilities embedded in them as well as traditional email. What are your plans in that regard for the U.S. market?
We absolutely want to add in SMS. We already do SMS for many of our customers through partnerships with the current SMS companies in the US. So that's possible today.
Okay.
In fact, what sets Netcore apart is really in India, we have our own gateways.
Right.
So that's something which we don't have.
There it
US.
is.
We have our own SMS gateways. So we tie up directly with the operators. And we are probably one of the only players in India and Southeast Asia which has got completely owned platforms for almost all of the push channels. So whether it's email, SMS, push notifications, WhatsApp, even sort of Facebook, etc. We've got them all directly integrated into our campaign management. Now that gets very interesting because if you think about it, what do brands want? They want to optimize their push messaging costs.
Yep.
They don't want to send out multiple messages to their customers across all the channels that they can essentially engage with. So through our platform, you could actually first send out a push notification. If the customer doesn't respond, then you could send out an email, slightly higher cost. Then you could do an SMS. Then you could do a WhatsApp message, only if the person is not responding. All of that managed through a single platform. So it's more of getting the message across to the user, to the end customer, rather than saying, I'm going to just reach out to the end customer through whatever channel that they want. So this journey orchestration, I think is a very powerful feature. WhatsApp is growing a lot in India, and I expect a similar thing is probably going to happen worldwide.
Right. Yeah, and WhatsApp is for Paul. In case you don't know, Paul is a
what is it?
What is this? It's a tool that you can text and call and leave voice. I call them voicemails through the internet, not using. Doesn't use cellular.
So like Skype.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit like Skype. It's very popular abroad, but people in the know in the US also use it. I've used WhatsApp for years. I
used WhatsApp this morning, Chris.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, back to Rajesh. So what's interesting? What the whole SMS thing? What you're talking about? Because there isn't really a US ESP that they all partner with somebody to send SMS. So your distinction you were making is you actually send it yourself in India. In the US, you do like everyone else. So I want to make it clear for the folks at home that you have those capabilities, pretty much like every other US ESP. So let's talk about. Well, Paul.
No, go ahead. You're going to do the same thing I'm going to do. You go ahead, Chris.
No, you don't know what I'm going to do. So let's talk about your the IPO plans that you have, and then we'll get to your acquisition strategy. But so up to this time, you've been. My guess is that you've been completely self-funded as a company.
Absolutely, Netcore is one of those rare companies, completely bootstrapped, close to 100 million ARR as a SaaS company.
Wow.
And one of the core beliefs that we've always had is growth with profits. And that's one of our core tenets. We run a very healthy EBITDA margin, and we've shown that it's possible to be profitable and grow quite well at the same time. So I think you'll love this one, Chris and Paul. We call ourselves a Proficon.
A Proficon.
Proficon, like unicorns, Proficon. Profitable.
Just as rare.
So
I love that.
Profitable, private, bootstrapped, and highly valuable.
Right.
There you go.
So no debt and no other investors. So that's great. So
no investors.
What are you doing? So you're planning an IPO in the next couple of years, and what are you going to do with the money that raises? What's the thinking behind that? Or are you going to take your money and retire to a beach in the Maldives or something?
Oh, not at all. I ended up making a lot of money at a very early age, and I still haven't retired. I'd sold a company when I was 32 for $100 million, free cash.
Yeah.
That was also a Proficon, by the way. We didn't raise any investor money.
You realize Paul and I are going to be miserable now for the rest
I
of
like-
the day thinking about that and that we didn't do that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so we are hoping
we
to
have so
IPO.
much in common.
We are hoping to IPO next year in India. And what we really want to do is essentially, there's no plans to exit really or sell sell my stake or any part of that at the IPO time at all. I'd like to do what basically Jim Collins calls build an enduring great company. So build to last. I think we've done all the hard work over the last 25 years. Probably been a little bit slow because we didn't grow for the first 10. But I think it's a great opportunity to build a global company with the products that we have. The good thing is that marketing will never go away. And we are right in the center of the brand customer relationship. And the idea is to use the capital raised from the IPO for a consolidation in the space, for basically acquisitions.
Cool.
So my model really is a company called Danaher. Danaher is in the sort of chemicals, additives space, industrial stuff. And it's one of the best companies when it comes to doing acquisitions through the probably decades now. And how do we essentially replicate that? And many other companies have done it. Salesforce has done it. Adobe has done it. And we want to basically do that because we can't build everything. And I think my belief is that marketers increasingly will want fewer and fewer vendors. More and more of the full stack because it's so much easier. They don't have to integrate different solutions. The data doesn't get siloed. AI doesn't work if all your data is siloed in multiple different places. And we are seeing very good success in India and Southeast Asia with the full stack solution. And we believe that over time, through both organic and inorganic acquisitions, we can really build out the products. Also, I think acquisitions become very important for us, Chris, for expanding the footprint in developed markets. Building organically in these markets is not easy. So what we also need is market access. And in a way, I know we'll get to it, but that's part of the reason for the Unboxed acquisition and investment.
Well, that's where I wanted to go a little bit was, and it's kind of the transition point here, which is like, unless you're asleep, Netcore has been making some real aggressive growth moves, right? Like the people in the industry that you've hired on are all top shelf. Sort of looking towards acquisitions.
Hey, Paul.
What was I'd love to get your head a little bit there. What's that?
Paul, you're freezing.
Oh, perfect. You take it.
Right. So anyway, what Paul was saying is you guys have had a very interesting strategy. Part of your strategy in the US has been hiring some of the best known and best people in the industry. And you've done a remarkable job attracting top talent to your company, which I think, again, says a lot about how you've come into the market and how you've been able to, again, establish yourself quickly as a player, as a player and a company that people want to join. Unboxed, talk about why, because again, that was your most recent acquisition, $100 million. What do they do and how will you integrate? You say their search. Talk a little bit about that and how you plan to integrate them into your offering.
So Unboxed is a US company, and to put it very simply, what it does amazingly well is on-site search. So when you go to Amazon, the search box is what a lot of people use, and they get fantastic results. Most other websites have a problem with that search box.
Yes, they do.
And bad results means it's lost business, especially for e-commerce and retail companies. It's a bad experience, bad user experience. Unboxed has solved that problem for mid to large sized retailers and D2C and e-commerce companies. So what they do is basically three things. So it's the search that is there, the on-site search. Second is the recommendations, the personalized recommendations. And third is they've got a new product coming out called PIM. Essentially, it's a digital catalog management for companies, for e-com companies. So they've solved the search problem, incredible search personalization problem incredibly well, great results. And I think some of the stats that they basically quote is that a good search result can essentially increase the probability of purchase from 3% to 13%. And that's a lot of money. And they've got fantastic case studies that they've done. Now, why Unboxed was very interesting to us at Netcore, Chris, was that they've got a fantastic presence in the US. So they basically cracked the US market, 100 plus brands using them in the developed markets, US, a few in Australia and Europe. And we thought it was a fantastic cross-sell opportunity. So a lot of these customers are the ones which Netcore would like to take its full stack solution to. There's no overlap really on the product side at all, number one. So we can take our email and marketing automation, etc. solutions to them, especially email, because that's a great landing product. That's a great entry point for a full stack MarTech solution. The second is that Unboxed does not have too many customers in India and the emerging markets. So now with our reach in India and Middle East and Southeast Asia and Africa, we can now take their product out there. So it's a great cross-sell, no product overlap, a developed markets entry for us. And it's a great team that's there who have built a fantastic product. Because they're already doing about 10 million ARR. So Netcore does about 85 million. So together we are close to 100 million. It's a great product market fit. I mean, they've already proved they're way past just buying technology and then wondering how do you get it to customers. Right. Wonderful team, which will continue to lead it, and looking forward now to essentially growing the business together.
So how does their product recommendation, because they get the search, and the search is great because it gives you great data on intent, and right, which is hugely valuable first-party data in a world where third-party data is going away. So to me that's a no-brainer. That's a great combination. But I also know that. But so how does their product recommendation? Where does it manifest itself? Is it on site? Is it deployed via the emails that these brands are sending?
Yeah, it's basically can be done in all the places. So the idea is essentially to use AI. It's something that humans can't really solve this problem. So you got to use AI. You got to look at what people are searching for, and whether it's logged in or non-logged. Of course, with logged in users, you got a lot more data. Otherwise, it's a non-logged users. It's a little different. But the idea behind the recommendations is that they are able to show information, show the products which you're very likely to buy. In a way, if you think about the problem, it's really the next best action that you want to be able to drive on most websites. I mean, we've seen that on Amazon. When you search for a book, it'll give you the other recommendations on what other books you could buy. And they're doing that by distilling the collective intelligence of what other people have bought or clicked on or searched for related to the product that you're looking at. Now, imagine the same thing in apparel, for auto products, and all kinds of things. And I think that's really where the opportunity is, because the earlier, I mean, in a way, it's the analogy is really between, I mean, we are all old enough to remember those days between Yahoo's directory and Google search.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's impossible to go through a human crafted hierarchical product listing. I mean, it searches really what Google has taught us is just type in what you want and you get the results. And if brands have to compete with the likes of Amazon, I think you have to crack the search and personalized recommendations problem. And that's really Unboxed's forte.
Right.
Well, and it gets to what Chris was getting at earlier in terms of intent signals, right? Now, all of a sudden, things about people, what they're interested in. And that's the whole basis of marketing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think if there are two words which really crystallize what the future is about, it's really omni-channel personalization.
Yep.
I mean, you're the customer, we are all customers. We are interacting through multiple channels. It's not a single channel anymore. And it could be, again, including offline and online. We want that seamlessness. We want that continuity. I could be searching on the website, and then I could be interacting through email, clicking on emails, And in fact, email is also becoming two-way with AMP, with interactive emails.
Yeah.
So that's again a big change which is happening in the world. All the one-way messaging channels are all becoming two-way. So that's omni-channel. And then you want personalization. You don't want the sort of spam in the search results that you're doing. You want to be able to just see and be surprised in many cases by the products that you probably didn't know you want, but with are very closely allied with what you've just bought.
Right. Yeah, no, very true. And I think customer experience and email and omni-channel are all coming together, and along with CDP. What we see, and it's clear to me that Netcore sort of sees the world the same way as we do, is all these things are coming together, and to the point where brands are just sort of beginning to expect a platform. Forget what label we call it. I still call them ESPs, but
Right.
but even when brands use the term ESP these days, what they're thinking about is so much further than email. They're thinking multi-channel orchestration. They're thinking customer experience. They're thinking data storage and analytics. And that's just, whatever you want to call that, it's all of those things in a single platform. To your point, they don't want multiple vendors, and they want to be able to get it all in one place, because then it works together.
Absolutely right, Chris. Very well put. In fact, I was thinking about a nice phrase for all of these platforms. I mean, there's a lot of words out there. There's growth, there is engagement, there is retention, there is loyalty.
Don't forget
ESP,
relationships.
Absolutely. And I really think that if you go to the core of what marketing is all about, and I think it has sort of deviated from this track over the past few years, because of the easy availability of a lot of capital to actually blow up on Google and Facebook on acquisition. It's really about profit-centric marketing. Marketing has to be the engine for driving growth with profitability for a company. And somewhere this part has been sort of a bit lost out of late. And I think it's very important. If you, again, go back to the basics, now that we have a digital channel that we can reach out to customers, I think one of the first things that marketers have to do is to build a hotline to customers, that push pipe to customers, because how else do you get your customers back? Either you're spending a lot of money on branding, which is not easy, so
Right.
People will remember, of course, Amazon's app, etc. But how many apps are they going to go on their own? And if they're not going to do that, then you need the push messages to get them back to your properties, whether it's the website or the app. So email actually becomes the starting point for this profit-centric marketing journey. And it means taking care of your existing customers. What is the best rule for growth? It's really about your customers come back for more and bring their friends.
Right.
Somewhere down the line, that has changed to, let's give Google and Facebook a lot of money and acquire new customers to fill up the gap.
Yep.
that our existing customers are leaving because they are churning because we're not taking good care of them.
Right.
So that's I think, the big shift which has to happen in marketing. And this is, I think, the singular opportunity for email. See, today, $400+ billion is being spent on ad tech. 90% of marketing budgets really are going into customer acquisition. The barely 10% left for existing customer relationships. Now, half of this 400 billion is being wasted on two counts. Number one, reacquisition. So you acquire a customer, and look, we all go through the experiences. We are all customers of multiple brands. You acquire a customer, brand acquires a customer, they are not taking good care of them, they become dormant, inactive, they churn, and then guess what? We are reacquired through the ad tech brand. And the second is wrong acquisition. I mean, you look at apps, 30-day retention is probably under 25%. So apps are acquiring 100 customers, 75 of them are gone in the first 30 days.
Wow.
Yep.
And this is where I think I see a big shift happening from ad tech to martech, and it's a massive opportunity for email. I think the email today is roughly probably 2% of ad tech spend, roughly 7 or 8 billion worldwide on a 400 billion versus 400 billion on ad tech. I believe email is going to be the most important channel for marketers to build that pipe, to build that hotline with their existing customers, which helps them reduce the waste, reduce the ad waste that's there. Email is the only channel which can do that. And that's where all the new innovations which are happening in email actually come into play.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I agree, you know, the shift from ad tech to martech is only getting accelerated with you know, the cookies going away, third party tracking going away. It makes it, you know, I think it was Henry Wanamaker, you know, US department store owner, who famously said, I don't know that only 50% of my advertising budget is working. I just don't know which 50%. And that's, I think, you know, for a time during their third party data and cookies, brands began to think, well, we kind of can know a little bit more that advertising is working. But now those dreams are crushed again. But I agree with you. If they spent as much time keeping customers as they spent trying to acquire new customers. And the problem is, though, I think one of the big problems of that is those are different groups in brands. That you have the group that spends money keeping customers happy, and you have another group that's job is to bring new customers in. And rarely are they looking at it holistically and trying to say what makes the most sense from a spending perspective and from a text perspective, what's going to produce the best results. Everybody's going off in different directions.
You've put it perfectly right, Chris. See, in a way, this all comes under whatever you call it, CRM or marketing, etc. But these two departments actually don't talk to each other. And because the budgets are in the ad tech side, you know, guess what? Every person who's on the martech side wants to get on the ad tech side.
Right.
That's where the growth is. That's where the big bucks are.
Yep.
And it should actually be just the other way around, where I think, you know, this whole profit, I think there's a great opportunity for smart CMOs to become chief profitability officers.
Interesting.
They can be the drivers. See, below the gross margin line, gross profit line, the biggest cost is really employee costs. And the second largest cost is actually marketing. So unless a brand is going to grow its revenues by taking care of existing customers, not giving discounts as they typically do. And second is, unless they're going to cut down the ad waste that's happening, there is really no path to sustained growing profitability.
Right. Hey, don't badmouth discounts. I like a good discount, right? I get irritated. There's a store I go to frequently, and they oftentimes give me, you know, they'll send me something that I, you know, because I'm in a loyalty program member, that'll be like, I don't know, you know, 30% off my entire order. If I don't get one of those in enough frequency, I get irritated with them, and I tend to take my business elsewhere. Now, you could say they're buying my loyalty, and they are, and but still, I like a good discount. But you know, this gets down to, I'd like to say that there's two types of loyalty. There's loyalty programs that you want to be in, and there's loyalty programs that you have to be in. And I would say the second one is the one that I'm referring to with this retailer. I have to be in it because I want that discount, and they can lose me in a heartbeat if I get a similar or better discount from a competitor, because there is no other reason to stay loyal to them. So, but so it is. I mean, so it is. I guess what you're saying, putting words into your mouth, is that loyalty, that customer loyalty that you're trying to generate, is that a loyalty based not on discounts, but on wanting to stay involved and stay a customer of that company for whatever other reasons, better customer service, tiered level of service, or whatnot.
Essentially, I think loyalty should mean treating your best customers like royalty. Okay, so if you are a loyal customer, and you should not have to sign up for a loyalty program. The brands have enough information to decide your among those 20% customers who's delivering 60% revenue and probably more than 100% of profits for them.
Right.
So they should sign you up. I mean, you walk into the store, I'm assuming physical world, you walk into the store, they should know you are a best customer. You shouldn't have to stand in queue for the checkout. You should have someone out there to assist you. I mean, that's, I think of this as velvet rope marketing. It's the experience you get when you go to Disney World and buy that extra pass.
Yep.
No queues.
Fast track or whatever. Yeah.
And someone's there to basically help you all the time.
Right.
That customer experience is going to be more important than saving probably a few dollars off an order. Number one. And second is that if you have a great experience, you're going to tell your friends about it, and they'll get more best customers like you.
Right.
Right.
No, that's a good point. And airlines and hotels have for years sort of had that figured out.
Absolutely.
I board before the rabble. If I'm in the loyalty program,
The riffraff,
the hoi polloi. And at a hotel, to your point, I don't have to wait in line with the rabble. If I'm in the loyalty program, I get to check in a separate check-in. And I think you're right. I think retailers have not cracked the code on that yet in a way that, as you're suggesting, where I get better treatment in the store because I'm that valuable. And I can't think of a single retail example where other than a really expensive chain where everybody gets treated with that velvet rope because you're paying, 10x, whatever. But that, I think that's an interesting way to think about how loyalty and customer service.
Chris, Foursquare did a little bit of that. I don't know if you remember the social network Foursquare. Do you remember that one? You checked in every time you went to a business. They had a deal where, like, if you were the mayor of the store or the governor, right this way, but it was sort of, maybe it was too early, maybe.
Right. Well, that was the one where you checked in, right? Where you would check in at a location.
Yeah.
I never got that. Well, anyway, so what's next with Netcore?
Oh yeah.
What are you looking at? You got money. You're still looking at, according to everything I've read, there's you're looking at other acquisitions. Obviously, don't tell us who you're looking at, but what kind of technology are you looking to acquire next, or what other kind of acquisitions are in your plans right now?
Okay, so I'll cover both of these areas. Let me start with the acquisition areas that we are looking at, and then I'll talk about the new tech. And cool. I think you love the tech ideas, because both are areas that you've discussed and you've talked about a lot in the past. So acquisition areas which are very complementary to what we are doing. There's CDPs, there's product analytics, there is email intelligence. I think email is expanding quite a bit, so adjacent area. There is, of course, loyalty, and there's conversational AI that's growing again a lot in India and emerging markets, basically chatbots. I think that's happening in the US also. So now that channels like WhatsApp are becoming interactive, so it's not just on the website, but on some of these messaging apps, you can have very good chatbots, essentially using natural language processing to figure out what you want. In fact, in India, WhatsApp has been experimenting with a lot of new initiatives where you could even do commerce. So it's conversational commerce right through with the help of the chatbots. The new areas are, there are two, I think, very interesting areas which are there. The first one is what I call email 2.0. Yep. So how do you really think the next generation of email? Again, all of us have been around long enough where we've heard the phrase, "Oh, email is dead." And it was said probably 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and email is stronger than ever before as a channel.
Yep.
So what we've started thinking is, what are the next generation? So I'll give you a few ideas that we are working on. One is, of course, I spoke about earlier, AMP from Google makes the emails interactive. And there's some fascinating things that can be done with that. So you don't have to click through to a website. You can have mini apps, micro websites right inside the email itself. So you want to have form fills, you want to collect NPS ratings, you want to have some games to make emails more engaging. All of that now becomes possible with AMP. The second idea is, I call it M's. So these are sort of micro content plus stories. So essentially bringing what has worked on Insta in social media onto emails. So think of messages which are short, just a screen full, rather than the long ones which are there. So on one mobile screen, but they are sent to you every day at the same time. So this is about the mental availability of a brand. When you see in the physical world, there's basically brands like Coke, Pepsi. They focus a lot on physical availability. You'll always find a Coke or Pepsi bottle nearby. In the digital world, the equivalent is the mental availability. Imagine exposing your customers to your logo for 10 to 15 seconds every day with something which is informative to them, rather than just the promotional content. And the third idea, which I'm most excited about, is what I call atomic rewards. So essentially, it's bringing in gamification into emails. So this will empower marketers to nudge customer behavior. So essentially, and it's a great way to actually collect zero-party data which is volunteered by customers themselves. I think various studies have shown you give people small incentives, they're willing to give you some information about themselves.
Works with me.
Right.
Yeah, throw in a 10% discount for Chris there, please, and ask his details about, for example, how many family members are there? Do you have pets? What is your PIN code if you don't know it? What do you like better on your vacations, hill stations or beaches? All of this can help brands personalize what they are sending to you.
Right.
Now, with this, I think there are two more things which are very important here. One is we need a new metric of measurement in email beyond opens and clicks.
Yep.
So we need to measure stickiness. We need to measure streaks. We need to measure habit creation. So higher order engagement that's there. So we are working on that. We call it hooked score. And the last is and this is a great phrase a friend used, mentioned it to me last week, performance email. So bringing in, like you have performance marketing, how do you bring in performance email? I used to think of this as a progency, a product-led agency, but I think performance mail is the product. A progency is about combining product, people, technology, and pay for performance. So again, we are old enough to remember the early days of CPM in ads, and then what happened? CPC came along. So pay for performance budgets went up dramatically because now you just have to didn't pay for eyeballs, you could pay on outcomes. And I think we need to bring a similar thing into the world of email. So that's sort of the email world. And the other idea, which I think can be a game changer going forward, is around loyalty. I call it loyalty 2.0. And the idea here is that loyalty all along has been linked with transactions, with money spent. But you need to look at the upstream of loyalty, and that's attention, engagement, habit creation, time spent. So how is it that we can create a loyalty program based on the upstream? Because more time spent, more data volunteered. So think of it as tokens or point system for attention and data. Because one of the biggest problems that brands face today is attention recession.
Yeah.
I mean, when 10% people are opening mails, it's 90% people ignoring your mails. How can we change that? And that's the attention recession problem. That's where also leads to what I call the data poverty problem. You don't have enough zero-party data or first-party data. I think if we can solve these two problems, email the two innovations, basically email 2.0 and loyalty 2.0, I think we can engineer a massive shift in that $200 billion waste that is happening on the ad world into the world of MarTech. And I think email will be the biggest beneficiary of this shift. So that's what I'm working on.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that take on loyalty is particularly interesting, and in loyalty 2.0, and the idea of rewarding engagement without even necessarily being officially in a loyalty program. Because I've talked to some of your team that how many loyalty programs do I actually want to sign up for? But if I can get rewarded loyalty points without it being official part of a program, yeah, I'm all in. I think that's a very interesting idea. Love to see how that works.
This, Rajesh, what do you see the role of like Web 3.0 in those loyalty programs, right? Because that's the whole concept is I hold a token and that gets me scooted to the front of the line.
Great question, Paul. So see, one of the other problems in loyalty today, in the loyalty 1.0 world, is it's typically controlled by a single brand. There are very few, I mean, there are a few multi-brand programs, but in all cases, there is a central entity which is controlling it. Now, where have we seen this picture before? With currencies, right? There is a Fed or there is a central bank controlling this. And that's led to the rise of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, where the fundamental thing is decentralization. Now, apply the same idea into loyalty. So imagine a pan brand, attention and data based loyalty program. We don't have to link it to transactions at all. That's working fine with the loyalty points. We can leave that aside, but look at the upstream. And imagine a fixed, an upper cap on the total points which will be there.
Yep.
It's all kept on the chain, so there is no debasement possible. So it's run almost like a DAO, a decentralized organization.
Now you're singing Paul's song.
Paul, that's great. I'd love to hear your ideas on this.
You'd need to pack a lunch.
Yeah. Don't get him started on NFTs, please.
No, but I think that's the idea, though. Like there I go. No, but the idea that like you've got this sort of anonymized, decentralized token that is both trackable but not sort of re-identifiable means that you can get access to this new data without infringing on someone's privacy rights.
Absolutely right. So now, see, essentially, see, when we talk Web 3.0, a lot of people get confused about it. I think it's a very simple question. What is centralized today, which can be decentralized tomorrow?
Right.
And what you want are organizations, and that's really the idea behind the DAO. A DAO is run by rules, not rulers.
Yep.
I think if we just keep these two things in mind, you have the foundations of the future. And whether you look at, I think, and you said it very well, that there's a lot of opportunities today where we can bring in tokens which are decentralized, not controlled by a single brand, anonymized, and a lot of interesting things which can be done between the brand and the customers.
You may need to explain to Chris what a DAO is. I'd be happy to, unless you'd like to, Rajesh.
I wasn't gonna bring up the point that I don't know what that is, but now you put the spotlight on me, Paul. Can somebody explain what a DAO is?
Chris, very simple. Today, most organizations basically are run by rulers. There's someone at the top who determines what the things are going to be.
Yep.
DAO is run by rules. So there are rules which are embedded on the chain, which are there in software contracts, which are there. So no individual can modify the rules on their whims and fancies. So for example, in the world of Bitcoin, the total number of tokens are capped. Yep. And that's really what has driven Bitcoin's popularity.
Scarcity
value. And there is no someone, I mean, you look at the growth in the US Fed balance sheet, 10x in the last 10 years. So a lot of money printing going on, which brings a lot of distortions.
Yes.
And this is, I think, the game-changing idea. And there are sort of the other ideas about trust, that you can do transactions with, like as Paul said, with anonymized, with people you don't know. So essentially, it brings in a level of trust because there is no single entity, single person who can mess around with the rules.
Right.
So, Chris, my simple term here is it's a group. It's a group that you buy into with a token, essentially, right? And there are rules. There's rules that exist on this group, and you vote, and you've got all kinds of options. It's a group.
You love this stuff, Paul. I mean, Rajesh, you're now, Paul's like So animated now. We're not going to talk about NFTs, at least in this session.
Well, no, but I think and you're right. The idea is that I've been kind of looking at is where do these fit in the marketing landscape? Because we know they're coming, right? And if there's one thing people look for from us, Chris, is teaching them about the future. It's hard to say that without laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I think the good
they're
thing
out of luck if that's the case.
No, Chris. The good thing is that between us, we have enough experience about the past to better anticipate the future.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And our collective wisdom certainly is greater than any one of us here. So that's awesome. Well, I see we're coming up on almost 60 minutes. I don't know, Paul, is there anything else that you have on your mind? I mean, because I know we could go, I'm trying to rein this in before we go off on another hour on NFTs.
What an opportunity to talk. I love what you guys are doing at NetCore. I think for marketers, everything from just even the streak or stickiness concept around engagement metrics. That's something that's relevant today to marketers, right? Everything from what you guys are looking at, where you guys are going. What an opportunity to have a glimpse into one of the leaders in our world.
Yeah. I would agree with everything Paul said. And Rajesh, what I really like is the way, again, you and by extension, NetCore think about these things holistically and think about the component pieces that need to be plugged together to achieve what you're talking about. Again, which isn't going to be done through email alone, which isn't going to be done through loyalty alone, which isn't going to be done through mobile alone, but yet it's how these things work together to address the issues that you see. So we'll be very interested to see how things progress with you. We'll want to have you back certainly post IPO, if not before then. Not to talk about NFTs.
Yes, to talk about
that's a banned topic on this program, but to talk about what's next for you guys. But in the meantime, we really appreciate your time today, and we'll be interested, as I've said, to see how things progress with the company.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Paul. And Paul, we'll talk about NFTs separately without Chris.
We'll do it.
Over coffee or tea in New York. That's fine.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And we'll be back. Now that we're back in the swing, we'll get back to you with the new program soon.
There you go. Thanks.
So we're going to make it look right now, Chris, like we are not recording this at a separate time. Ready? This is when I cue the response. What a great show. Now you do it
exactly. Too. What a great show. Rajesh was a really fun guest to have on. He was shared a lot of interesting things about where NetCore is going, and we appreciate his candor and participation in the podcast.
And not just NetCore. I think this is one where it's like marketing as a whole, digital marketing. Like I think it's wrapped up in there when he's talking about things like streaks and honestly loyalty. Like all of these things, I'm like, yeah, this is the direction of marketing and a little bit of a Oracle, if you will, but not Oracle the company.
Not the Oracle the company, but Oracle in its traditional sense of the word or meaning of the word.
Right.
Yeah, no, that was great. And I want to pause here for a moment, Paul, because regular viewers and listeners of this program are probably wondering themselves, what happened to fan favorite producer David Inman?
There's going to be a lot of hate mail coming in, Chris, as soon as you start talking. And I'm beside myself.
We have to. We're devastated to announce that since we last joined you on this podcast, fan favorite producer David Inman has left our organization. And
fan favorite is the right word too, Chris. The number of emails and Slacks and tweets and Discords that come in. I want to have David's baby. I love David. David's amazing. Why are you wasting our time with your ugly faces, Paul and Chris? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's gonna be
Paul, not so much Chris on the ugly faces part, but yes, we wish producer David Inman the best. We're out there hunting for a new producer. We've bootstrapped this episode ourselves. Amazing, shocking as that sounds, but we're out there looking for a new producer. But David
better
Inman's
producer.
shoes will be
A better
very
producer.
large.
Oh yeah,
A better producer. Oh, well,
Right.
it'll be easy to get a better producer. I mean, come on. How many times did David let us down over the course of this? Where he'd promise to, come back the following week with something.
Oh, I already missed him.
He was always making promises and
Right.
and not keeping them. So
That's right. That's right. You know what, Chris? I don't want. We're better without him.
Fan favorite. We will miss you. We will.
He-
You
and,
are
you know,
missed.
I don't want to say that we're never going to have him back. I think a special guest appearance would be in order, right?
I think we should make right. I think as potentially as a reward for his years of faithful services,
right,
his 2 years of faithful service,
right.
if that even 1.5 years,
Something like that. Years.
maybe we'll make him a guest on the program and just let his fan base
meet
prove
him.
their devotion to him by just blowing the numbers off views and listens to that episode.
And it really comes down to us tracking down what country he has moved to, or planet, or some sort of undersea environment. Yeah, biodome, wherever. Once we can track him down, I think our viewers would like to get to know fan favorite David Inman a little bit.
I think we can safely say you haven't seen or heard the last of him. I think our pledge to you, our loyal audience, is we all want to get a chance to say goodbye to David Inman on this program. So we'll definitely get him back for a show or guest appearance or build a show around him.
Right. Well, and with that being said, Chris, it's been a minute since you and I have done this, right? And so it's a little bit like throwing training wheels back on the bike, doesn't it feel?
Yeah. I think I don't think we're not as.
Here's the deal. You are the constant professional.
Well,
you are the constant professional. People look at you and they're like, Chris has his stuff together. Chris knows what he's doing. He's carrying dead weight. That's what they say. And I think they're talking about me, but I'm not sure. You know what I mean? It could be anyone, but when there's only two of us and they're saying Chris is the good one, it just leads me to believe that I'm the other one. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? I don't think we need to dwell on it. All we can do is move forward into the future.
That's fair. That's fair.
And not dwell on the past.
So it's conference season. Let's go there. Yeah. It's conference season, right?
It is conference season.
It's spinning back up, and historically, pre-COVID, this was a time that brought joy into the hearts of people everywhere, right? Because
email marketers everywhere.
Well, but everyone, like, this is conference season, right? At least for digital marketers, right? Digital marketers in general, right? And so, like, it meant that for a period of a couple of days, you got to get away from home, probably to a sunny environment, right? And for people living up north, this was a huge joy. And it was like, man, I get to get out of my humdrum life of rain and wind and darkness, and I get fun for a little bit. And then the COVID's hit, right?
Yep.
And I won't say we fixed it, because I don't think that's the case. COVID's it's going to be a part of our life, I think, forever. Yep. But I think we've kind of found a place for it, right? And so we're starting to say, well, let's look at conferences again. And so you are attending a conference, yes? Soon.
I got 3 coming up. By the time this airs, one of them will have happened probably. But yeah, I got the Email Insider Summit. I got the Email Evolution Conference, and then the Email Innovations Summit, all coming up.
That's a lot of E's, I's, and S's. So question, I mean, at any point, did you have hesitation to jump back into it? Was there anything there for you? None.
No,
None hesitation.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, tell me about that.
Virtual conferences just don't hold a candle to the real thing.
Right. Well, so you and I are different. We're I tend to be a little more hesitant than you do, just in life. I think you're a little more brash. Let's hop on that horse. Let's see how fast it'll ride. You know what I mean? And that's definitely. That's a known metaphor too, Chris. I didn't just make that up. You know what I mean? People talk about fast riding horses. No, but I tend to be a little more hesitant. But I don't think I'm hesitant about this. I would jump, like, the conference you're talking about. I'm actually, my son's graduating, so I can't attend that one. But I don't have hesitation about this. I think I'm ready to get back in. But I also know there's going to be a lot of different perspectives and views, and there's some newfound sensitivities that we'll have to provide to be like, okay, not everyone feels ready to jump on that horse. I mean, what do you think? I'm really curious to predict what are these conferences going to be like, so that then we can kind of look back at it. I'm curious what your take is going to be.
I think their attendance is going to be, I as you said, I think people are raring to get back out there. Certainly everybody can make their own choice, and I respect any choice somebody makes as to whether many of them have virtual components to them still, if not all of them still. And so there are people who attend virtually, people who attend in person, and it's a personal choice. But again, I think, the people that are going to be showing up in person are going to be people sort of embracing the community.
So I'm going to throw a curveball at you, Chris. I didn't tell you this ahead of time. I think that the Email Geeks, our viewership, our fandom, they're going to want their own conference, right? They're going to want the Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee conference. Okay. Now we got to figure out, we've got a lot of things to figure out. Where are we going to have this take place, right? I have an opinion. I think it should be on a boat, on a yacht, on a cruise. I think water should be involved. What do you think about that? Conference on the water?
No, I think it's an awful idea. I think it should be someplace maybe like Gulf Shores, Alabama.
I do like Gulf Shores, Alabama. It has some of the prettiest beaches in the world. Did you know that?
Exactly. On the Emerald Coast. Yeah.
On the Emerald Coast.
I think if we started a conference, we need to do it in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Right. How would we set ours apart? How would ours be different than everyone else's conference, Chris? We would host it for sure, right?
Well, that would be right. So that would be the different. Location would be different
because it'd be in Alabama. That's a good point. We are definitely hitting the obvious ones here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What else is there to do to talk about email? We could do the email plus CDP conference.
Oh, I like that. Right. Well, but again,
nobody's done that. Bringing them together.
What if we did email without email conference? Hear me out, Chris. So this conference, we call it an email conference, right? But literally we plan nothing. We plan nothing at this conference. People show up and we just go do Gulf Shores, Alabama, right? People are like, hey, boss, I'm going to this conference. We provide, this is going to be a Ponzi scheme, right? Like we're going to get paid, right? And we don't do anything. And the people who attend don't do anything. We just have a big party on the beach.
Most people would call that a vacation.
Maybe we shouldn't get into conference planning then.
No, I don't think we should get it. I think we should just attend the other conferences. We're probably better off doing that.
That's probably a good choice. Probably a good plan.
So you just got to get the suits that your organization is sending you to these conferences. You got to get them to step up and get you part of this.
Yeah. Well, I needed my kids to stop graduating. I think that's what we need to have happen, Chris.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, they can put them on the 5-year plan or something. That'll get more conference attending.
Yeah. All right. Well,
all right. I think we've tortured. I think we've tortured our audience enough. They were glad we were back. At this point, they're wondering why they ever missed us. They're wondering why they ever missed us.
Right.
But we're delighted to be back. We're glad if you made it this far, thanks.
Right.
That wasn't easy. And we'll be back with you soon with hopefully some more enlightening and interesting episodes of Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Peace out.